That smell reminds me of some of the most horrific things I've ever breathed in my life.
Andrew Zimmern is best known as the host of the travel channel's Bizarre Foods. The popular show has provided viewers with a lot of memorable moments. So let's take a look at 10 secrets about Andrew Zimmern's Bizarre Foods. Being real is hard.
First time.
It can be hard for the average person to act natural when they are surrounded by cameras, lights, and production assistants. Reality shows try to capture real-life events as they unfold, but Andrew Zimmern and the makers of Bizarre Foods found out this could be a big challenge. The producers of the show have had to admit that there is actually a lot of setup and planning that goes into trying to capture real events as they happen. They have to be careful because they don't want everything to feel like it has been scripted and staged. Zimmern is usually approached by groups of fans when he's in public, so this added another difficulty in filming the show. Viewers might be surprised to learn that the crew often films several hours of footage to get a few minutes of footage they can use for the show. The crew also shoots multiple takes of Zimmern completing simple tasks like walking down a street to make sure they have all the different angles they might need later. It might seem a little odd that so much planning goes into making a television show like Bizarre Foods feel spontaneous, but producing a show is too expensive to leave anything to chance. The Hungry Crew.
You ever tried shawarma? There's a shawarma joint about 2 blocks from here. I don't know what it is, but I want to try it.
The stars of television shows like Andrew Zimmern get most of the attention from the media and fans, but the on-screen talent is only a small part of what it takes to produce a television show. The behind-the-scenes crew members of Bizarre Foods do a lot of work that isn't seen by the viewers, but is crucial to making the show a success. The production staff might be accustomed to not getting as much credit as they deserve, but they sometimes also miss out on the wide variety of food that has been an integral part of the show.
You know something? No soup for you!
Sometimes the crew will get the food that is left when Zimmern is finished filming, but this is a hit-or-miss proposition. While Zimmern is tasting the latest bizarre delicacy, the crew is often left to scrounge for whatever they can find on their own. Zimmern became aware of the crew's predicament during a particularly long and difficult shoot in Louisiana, so he decided to reward them. When the shoot was finished, he treated the crew to an extravagant dinner at one of New Orleans' many fine restaurants. It's too bad the crew is often forgotten, but at least Zimmern made an effort to make things right when he had the chance. The Cajun Lady.
And what are we having for dessert?
Squirrel.
Andrew Zimmern has admitted that taking on some of the strange foods that make it onto his show has caused him some major stress. But it was actually a lady who caused him more stress than any of the foods ever did. The lady in question is Alzina Toops, and at first glance, she doesn't seem like she would be the type of person you'd need to be wary of, but apparently looks can be deceiving. She's an unassuming grandmother with white hair and glasses, but she also happens to be a pretty big deal because she's one of the most highly regarded Cajun chefs you can find.
We're not worthy! We're not worthy!
Miss Toops has a restaurant where she serves up her own take on Cajun cuisine, such as unique crab meat lasagna. Zimmern recounted a story about how the accomplished Cajun chef took him to task for wasting too much shrimp when he helped her clean a batch of the shellfish. The host of Bizarre Foods is grateful for the chance to learn from the renowned chef, but is upfront about how uncomfortable the experience was for him. You can meet the Cajun Lady in the safety of your own television when you check out the episode of Bizarre Foods called Cajun Country. Stinky Tofu.
It's like rotten nuts mixed with rotted fish.
Andrew Zimmern's television show Bizarre Foods has to live up to its name by showcasing some truly strange foods that most of us would never eat. One of these foods really is bizarre, and it's called Stinky Tofu. Zimmern went all the way to Taiwan to get himself some stinky tofu, and it did not go well for him. The tofu is put in a brine with a bunch of vegetables and then just left on the counter at room temperature for 2 long years. Unless you're willing to try stinky tofu for yourself, you'll have to imagine what this concoction smells and tastes like by the time it's ready to eat. Zimmern went to Dai's House of Unique Stink, and with a name like that, you have to know you're about to try something bizarre.
That is absolutely horrifying.
The television star did his best, but he just couldn't bring himself to swallow a single bite. There had to be something particularly bizarre about this particular batch because Zimmern had eaten stinky tofu during a previous challenge. The ripe aroma of this stinky tofu is described as being similar to smelly feet or rotting garbage. Neither description lends itself to being tasty, so you have to give Zimmern some credit for at least attempting to eat the stinky tofu that most of us would avoid at all costs. Before Bizarre Foods.
I need a bigger spoon. I need a bigger spoon.
Andrew Zimmern may be best known for the popular show Bizarre Foods, but it's not where he got his start. Before Zimmern started on a trajectory to become a television star, he was a successful chef in New York City. This was no easy task, considering the Big Apple's highly competitive restaurant industry. An unfortunate battle with drugs convinced him to leave the big city for Minneapolis, where he tried to get his life back on track.
Why don't you purify yourself in the waters of Lake Minnetonka?
He was hired as a dishwasher at a Minneapolis restaurant called Un Deux Trois, where he quickly worked his way up the ladder to become executive chef. Zimmern's rise at Un Deux Trois got him some attention in the media, and this led to some guest spots on the HGTV channel. He earned high marks for his cooking segments, but the increased publicity did not equal big money. We like to think that working in television is glamorous, but it isn't always lucrative, because the rising chef was paid only $50 for each HGTV segment. What he did gain, however, was valuable television experience that would serve him well later on when he got his own show, Bizarre Foods. Zimmern didn't have an easy path to success, but he stuck to what he was good at, and eventually it paid off for him. Burning mouth syndrome.
One of the worst ideas.
With a show called Bizarre Foods, Andrew Zimmern has certainly eaten more than his share of strange and unappealing foods that many people would never dare to eat. In 2005, Zimmern did dare to eat cumin in Morocco that turned out to be tainted, and he suffered the consequences. The television host came down with a rare disease from the tainted cumin, and the disease has stayed with him.
The show goes on!
About once a year, he suffers from burning mouth syndrome. As the name of this condition suggests, a person can feel a very uncomfortable burning sensation in their mouth, as well as unusual thirst and even periods of numbness. In some cases, people lose their sense of taste, which would prove a problem for Andrew Zimmern. People who are suffering from burning mouth syndrome are usually told to avoid spicy foods, and this makes sense. However, this isn't realistic advice for someone who hosts a television show called Bizarre Foods. Zimmern knew he was taking some risks when he agreed to be on the show and accepts his bout with burning mouth syndrome as one of the costs of doing business with exotic and unusual foods. His bags are packed.
Pack my suitcase?
When you hear that someone keeps their bags packed at all times, you might think the person is on the run from the law or expecting a zombie apocalypse. Neither of these reasons explain why Andrew Zimmern always has some luggage on hand. Hosting a television show on the Travel Channel means a lot of traveling, and for Zimmern, this means he's on the road more than 250 days a year. Sometimes these trips come up at the last minute, so if he doesn't want to be caught flat-footed, he has to be prepared to leave on short notice. Traveling a lot can be stressful, so it makes sense to take the time to be prepared. Zimmern is likely to encounter different climates and weather conditions while he's traveling, so he has to pack several kinds of clothing, such as shorts, sweaters, and boots.
I don't know how to pack a suitcase.
People who travel know you can't have too many pairs of socks, so hopefully Zimmern always has a few extra pairs handy just in case. Doing the packing in advance seems like a good way to alleviate some of the stress that comes with a hectic travel schedule. This isn't just good advice for television stars, though. This advice applies to anyone who might expect to hit the road on short notice. Zimmern versus Bourdain.
You're pretentious. This club sucks. I've got beef. Let's do it.
People like a good rivalry, and a good television rivalry is even better. Andrew Zimmern of Bizarre Foods fame couldn't help but cross paths with fellow chef and television host Anthony Bourdain before his passing. They are both known for being food guys, and they both made a living by traveling to exotic and exciting locations. They had so much in common that it should come as no surprise that their rivalry was mostly a friendly one. The two men had a relationship that allowed them to share ideas and tips with each other on a variety of topics. The two television hosts became close enough to share stories and talk about the pressures of being away from home for extended periods while they were filming.
I want to go home!
The pair liked to talk about everything from their families to world events, so it wasn't just about sharing recipes and the latest travel tips. The two men became close, and Zimmern admits that losing his friend was a difficult experience to deal with. He believes Bourdain's influence and legacy will live on and continue to inspire people. The entertainment industry can be crazy competitive, so it's encouraging that these would-be rivals had a real connection that both of them valued a great deal. Rotting shark.
You don't want to mess with that. That's not for beginners. Oh my gosh.
Andrew Zimmern has taken on a lot of bizarre foods on his appropriately titled television show. The Travel Channel has sent the chef-turned-television host all around the world to take on exotic, unique, and even disgusting foods. Zimmern has his favorites, his least favorites, and then he has the fermented foods. He has admitted several times that it's the fermented foods that were the hardest ones for him to stomach. We can't really blame him because we know that fermented and spoiled foods can smell and taste downright repulsive. One of the worst foods that Zimmern couldn't avoid on his show is called hakar.
It smells like something died.
He encountered this food while visiting Iceland, but wishes he had been able to avoid it. Hakar is Greenland shark that is left to rot until it is safe to eat. The idea that you should wait to eat something until it's good and rotten is a little bizarre, but this is what Zimmern signed up for. Waiting to eat hakar is actually necessary because the meat is poisonous when it's fresh. It's safe to eat only after the meat has secreted its toxins. Even though he was able to eat the rotting shark, it's probably something he doesn't want to do again. The favorites.
It's very impressive.
One of the perks of starring in a show like Bizarre Foods is that Andrew Zimmern has been exposed to a wide range of exotic foods. Foods that most people never get a chance to try. Although there are a number of foods Zimmern wished he had never tried, he also discovered some foods that he liked and would eat them again. Individual tastes are very subjective, so some people might be surprised which bizarre foods he would order again. Believe it or not, Zimmern ate donkey skin during a trip to China and he liked it, but this is a fairly tame example. In at least one eastern province in China, they have been extracting gelatin from donkey skins for more than 2,000 years. The gelatin is often used to make traditional medicines in China. Another food Zimmern liked was sea urchin. These small sea creatures have spherical, spiny shells that seem unappealing at first glance, but they turned out to be one of his favorites.
Like kissing a mermaid.
Sea urchin is popular in places like Japan and the Mediterranean. The trick to eating a sea urchin is being able to separate the tender meat from the inside of the shell, so Zimmern's chef training probably came in handy. Most of us are much more comfortable eating tacos and pizza than donkey skin and sea urchin, so you have to respect Zimmern's willingness to try new things. The idea that some of these foods actually taste good is one of the secrets about Andrew Zimmern's Bizarre Foods. Check out more great videos. Just tap or click. Hit that subscribe button and ring that notification bell.